disappeared. So I don't know.
All right. Gotta make sure that's, we forgot to get that going in the beginning.
Okay. So anyway, I thought that that was kind of needed to be looked at. One of those things that was part of.
But can you scroll down? The minutes are attached to this, so we can see if there's, she's referencing, if there's a.
Keep going.
There was this section
There
on
it is.
Keep going.
election.
Yeah.
Section 8 right there.
Is that it?
Yeah. Right up there?
So which section did you want or what number?
Well, it was something that looks like part of a boilerplate. That hasn't been updated.
I see.
Oh, it may be when we do the constant contact, it
That,
describes
yes.
who's what
Yes.
position.
There we
I think Bonnie updated that. I thought she did.
She updates the constant contact information, then communication sends it out. So I'm not, well, I didn't hear the first part of your.
Well, what I was saying is there's some kind of boilerplate thing that still has Gary as chair.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's the constant
I
comment.
updated that.
Yeah, that's been updated.
Okay. So, but I couldn't remember the difference, but yeah, as far as the minutes go, I would like to move that they be approved as written. Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Wow.
Opposed?
So I just have a question about that. You had mentioned earlier, this is what prompted me to go back and was reading when you were talking about things, was you mentioned that there was conversation about septic systems or sewers at the last meeting. And I'm not
Talking about.
Well, no, I think
was
it
talking
was-
about phosphorus.
It was brought
Oh,
up.
okay. That I see in here, okay.
It's on the minutes.
I think
Yeah,
it
I just
was-
didn't see like a particular conversation around a septic or sewer line or something like that, that's what I thought.
It was in another minutes, I think I
Yeah.
just, somehow we were talking and I brought something up and then
Okay.
we didn't discuss it anymore, and then Kathy said there was something, she said she wanted.
Oh, the
to
future
address it.
agenda item talks about future, potential sewer leaching on Lark Street, so that sounds like Dave didn't
I
have,
see.
and he didn't have information to put on this agenda, but we'll certainly, certainly looking into that, and we'll have it on the next one.
Yeah, so number 9 kind of touches on it a little.
Right.
Yeah, the issue was a rumor of a broken sewer or a leaking sewer line, I think under Lark Street, as a
Yes,
phosphorus
right in
input to
front of my
plate.
house.
Right.
Yes, right in front of my house.
In front of your house.
Yeah, that's why I keep having to have pay $600 and some to have it blasted. But I have the report that the septic
So
people said.
it's your
and I
side
have
sewer
pictures.
that you're having folks come out and kind of,
So my sewer line that
Mhm.
connects to under the city one, under the road,
right?
okay.
That's
it-
what you have to have, cleaned out.
Yes, and they have to use a big powerful water blast because there's roots growing into
Right.
that. And the reason is because it's concrete. The city has concrete. I have all the whatever it is, PC, I don't know what it is. Yeah, but I remodeled, yeah. So what it is like every year or year and a half, I have to go and I'm thinking it's my problem. And then he goes, no, it's out here in the street and it's the sewer is concrete, big
Mhm.
things, you know? And he took pictures after he blasted away. You can see where they're off kilter and one's cracked and the roots are growing in there. And so my question was, well, the city won't do anything. They said I needed a 6-inch clean out. Well, they approved me for the 4-inch. And the neighbor across the kitty corner to me just replaced his sewer line. It's an old house. He has a 4-inch. So if he has trouble too with the drainage, he's gonna be in trouble because the city said they can't get their equipment down in a 4-inch. Well, the thing that I'm thinking is, well, this is yours, the concrete, and it's off kilter and one's cracked and it's causing me to have to clean it out all the time. What they should be doing is tearing the road apart and fixing their thing, that I'm not getting anywhere with them, so.
So,
But
so the roots are because of the roots.
It clogs.
The roots are in the city's property,
Yeah, it clogs.
but because it clogs, yours won't drain.
Right, because I drain into the city.
Of course, yeah.
Let me look into that for you.
That ain't right.
Well,
Yeah. Let me
I
look into
have
that for you.
anything you
Maybe
want
get it.
here, if you wanna take a copy
Was
of
that?
anything. Do you wanna take a copy of this?
Yeah, I'll take a copy of that.
Okay,
so-
and I do have pictures, but I
What,
think,
Dave?
He said he was gonna camera that. They had a contractor out that was gonna demo some
Yeah, he mentioned that.
stuff, and he said he was gonna use that opportunity to go to Lark Street, so.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything since.
Yeah, we'll follow up for sure.
He's
You're
got
talking to the right
one.
people. It's our department. You're talking to the right people, so.
Sewer, I've had sewer stuff with, sewer, it's a special case in our house.
well, the reason
But the
I,
sewage is really good for roots.
Yeah.
yes,
They
of course
really
it is,
like
yeah, and
So the lake
so,
plants.
and I didn't know what else to do, and the guy said, well, just start dumping root kill down. Well,
That's
No, I
what I've
think-
been told too.
but I don't like chemicals, and then I'm thinking, well, this,
I would not encourage you to pour chemicals down your drain,
Yeah.
because
No.
our treatment systems, it
No.
affects all people. If we have people going into the holes, now you got
Right.
chemicals in the holes.
right,
Yeah, don't do that. If there are roots growing in the systems, there should be, we should have the ability to go in there and cut those roots out
Yeah.
on the city's line.
but they
Right.
won't because they say that I don't have a 6-inch.
It doesn't need to be off of your line necessarily. We won't go into a clean out and into your side sewer. That's your responsibility.
Right,
But from
right.
the clean out or even from the street in, we can take care of that as
Yeah.
long as it goes to.
Well, they
to
even
that
came
point.
out and blasted from one end of the street down by where Kathy lived, well, just almost to where Kathy's. Remember that when they did that and blasted all the way down? But it didn't get the connection to my house.
Okay.
Because they say they can't get in there because my,
We'll talk to them. We'll
Okay.
see what's going on.
okay,
Thanks, Dan.
huh?
It's an easy case.
It is? Will you come and clog my, no. I have to do it again tomorrow. I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
So did we approve the minutes?
And
Yeah.
then we,
It was voted.
Still have,
It just pushes it through the roots.
yeah,
It doesn't take the roots out.
no,
Oh my
No,
gosh.
but they're root cutters. It's the same kind of, they
Yeah.
use the same hose. It just puts a different head on it.
Yeah.
And the water pressure actually spins the cutter and it just cuts the.
but what I'm
But if
worried
the-
about
if the
is that
concrete is-
the concrete, I mean,
Yeah.
that should be
It's gonna
fixed.
keep on going.
So I gotta understand what the problem is before,
Yeah,
and say,
yeah.
yeah, what we can. and
Yeah,
can't
and he
do.
took pictures after he blasted through it, and you can still see some of the roots that are still coming through.
Mhm.
And he described what they were, so.
Well,
I know,
I'll get
if
copies
I
of that
have,
before you
if
leave.
I have a blockage on my property, I know it's my property.
Let me get copies of that before you leave.
Alrighty, onward.
any public comment on that issue or any other issues? Anyone? Okay, public member comment.
Oh, we're back on the agenda.
Anybody in TV land there? Member comment, Linnea, or not Linnea, what is it, Lalani or Tom? Any,
Is Lynette, Lalani?
Lalani's there, yeah.
The line?
How do you see?
I saw her come in.
Oh.
Oh, and I thought I said Joel. Oh.
Yeah, Joel-
Okay,
Joel was here as
okay.
well.
Good to know.
This Tom, no comments now. You guys are doing great. Keep going.
Okay, then on to lake management.
Okay, we'll keep going.
So,
We really, this year on Barnes Lake, the main issue is water level. So everybody's aware of it. Our last appearance on the lake was July 10th. Normally it's a lot later than that. But up until July 10th, we were able to spray the lily pads twice. We were also able to spray some of the weeds that were in there. And we didn't really see very many main issues. I mean, as we've been talking about, we're kind of like in a adaptive management plan right now. And it changes almost on a year-to-year basis as to what we want to do, what we need to do. We are aware of the fact that we definitely want to keep some of the access areas to the main lake open, and that's basically the areas of the lake we treated this year. David called me and said there were some questions over this treatment map. Of the little white areas we had. marked
Oh.
up. And so what I wanna find out is what those questions were so that I can answer them.
I think we couldn't figure out what that meant, those white parts.
The boxes.
Okay, the white bot, oh, yeah, there's no,
Is that no data?
Was that from last month?
no, this is from May.
Oh.
Oh, we were talking
Is
about.
that what you couldn't
Yeah,
get?
the white areas are the treatment sites.
Oh.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, so there's no, I probably should have put that on energy scale.
We thought it was no data.
No, those are the areas we treated.
Ah.
So, you know, it's probably about 6 acres of weeds. There's a problem with all this type of mapping this year. The fact that right after this survey was done, their server went down, it was hacked. And they were down for 3.5 months,
Who was
Biobase.
Biobase?
So nobody had access to any of their data. Even data that had already been stored. They never really said what happened, but it was a long time, 3.5 months. You know, we got a little write-up from saying the FBI was involved with it. But I don't know what happened, but it just totally wiped their whole system out. So the whole summer, nobody had any mapping, we had to go back to an old type of system. So these white marks on here are not exact areas we treated, because we couldn't transpose the actual treatment site because we didn't have the map. So what we did is we took an older map and just went into Photoshop and just put the white areas in, so you knew exactly approximately where they were. But their system is up and running now, and hopefully it's not gonna be hacked again. It's really pretty unusual. The other thing that we did was we were able to secure the island. I'm sure that by now it's probably pretty much integrated with the bottom sediments of the lake. We still leave the ropes on it for probably another year. And then if we want, we can take the ropes off and it should be pretty stable right there. That system seemed to work really well. The other thing we did, and we almost forgot to do, was to beef up the boat launch. So just toward the end of the summer, David said, Doug, that boat launch, I said, oh my gosh, I never forgot about it. There were a number of ways we could address the problem. The biggest problem was I had to get these rocks down to the lake without tearing up the lawn. I mean, we could have used a bobcat, we could have done all this kind of stuff. Quite frankly, I think when CPC did it, I think they brought it down in wheelbarrows. And, you know, we weren't gonna do that. So what we did was we just got a dump trailer and we backed it up. We dumped it into the lake, and then spread it out. The problem with the dump trailer is that there really wasn't much maneuverability. Once you got it down there, it was there. I mean, you can't pull 5 yards of gravel up.
Oh.
Dana's Hill. So, you know, we dumped it. It would have been nice to be able to move over about 1.5 feet to make it a little wider. But I think we've got enough rock there to solve the issues we've been having. I mean, if we can get the boat out to the end of where these rocks are, we should have no problem launching it.
You're just waiting for water to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another island showed up.
Oh, did it really?
It's not as big though.
Oh,
Which island did you anchor? The one out from Dana's
yeah, I
place?
was going out for the day's place earlier.
There was one floating around a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, a pretty good sized one
Yeah.
too.
I have a
I don't know where.
smaller one that's just kind of staying there, but.
They do, the wind gets
Really?
blowing and they
Yeah,
just, they like a
With the
sail.
water so low. I guess
Yeah.
And they go back
acceptable.
again and pretty soon it passes again.
Yeah.
I had little ones and they kind of came close and I thought I'd pull them out, but I couldn't get them. So I started hacking at them with a saw. And it was fun. But it reminded me of when Gary taught you how to use the chainsaw and it.
Oh, yeah.
So I just all remember that you came out
Oh, in the
completely
lake.
covered with mud.
Good.
But I was just using a little handsaw,
Yeah.
like a keyhole saw.
Oh my gosh, you are hardcore.
I was, and then I take it out in little chunks and I throw it up.
Oh, my God.
But the roots were just thick.
Yeah.
I couldn't even get the tines of like one of those rake things in there, potato thing. I couldn't even get the tines.
So next summer, if we see a big floating mat that's in somebody's property, at least now we know we can move it. But if we
That
can
was
move it,
amazing how you
if we
did
can
that.
move it, we can put it anywhere.
Can we hack them apart and take them out?
Oh, yeah, you can hack them, take them apart, sure.
You might have to go to this PC.
So did you use some kind of a chain?
We used a, what did we use?
Some kind of a chain, like chain saw thing that, a pruner?
Yeah, we used a tree pruner.
Is that a packet?
But a
With a
chainsaw.
chainsaw on it, yeah. You just gotta be willing to,
Yeah,
you have
it'd
to
be
use
covered.
garbage. Piece of equipment is garbage.
Are these root mats or what are these islands made of?
Yeah, the ones that, the
The
little teeny
roots
ones.
from the lily pads.
Lily- okay.
Yeah, they made it. Shrubbery material, lily
Second one down.
pads.
So how do you stand out there to do that?
Very precarious.
I was gonna say,
I don't do that anymore.
I have sat down, ended up sitting down a lot
Yes,
trying to get
I
out
have
there.
done that.
And then, but I learned you have to stand up quick because before it sucks you down.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The LFD does not assume liability for anyone working on
We
the
have the
lake
fire
and falling
department.
over.
He lives on our street. Josh.
But I
Keep
just
your
put-
phone in your pocket in case you go
Yeah, I
down.
put it down and
I
then
don't
really,
take my
It's
phone
not a
out
joke.
there because of the falling down.
Yeah.
Getting my hip waders.
We'll put it in a Ziploc
Yeah,
bag.
you wanna make sure you're not out there by yourself,
I
not on
love
those
it.
islands, no way.
Lilani, can you see the map on there now?
Maybe she's muted.
Lalani.
Okay, well, let us know in the chat if you can't see the map, for whatever reason, but we pulled up the map that Doug was referring to for you.
And do we have an any aerial surveys?
We have the air, we didn't do a fall survey, we have the spring survey, and we haven't finished processing yet. That was another issue we ran into this year. There were so many changes, didn't really impact changes internally dealing with NPDS permit. None of these changes really impacted Barnsley, but they impacted 50% of our other lakes. The biggest change was that they changed the time when we were allowed to treat lakes. They changed it from June 15th to July 15th. So instead of having a 60-day window to treat 25 lakes, you're now shortened to about 2.5 weeks. So it just created an incredible problem with trying to schedule this stuff. And one of the things we weren't able to do is we had to eliminate the late zone surveys because there just wasn't any time to do it.
So the permit dictates when you can apply?
Yeah, the permit tells you when you can apply the herbicides.
So you can't do it based on efficacy of what you're treating, or do they change the window based on what you're treating?
We changed the window, fishery changes it because of the fish species
Fish.
in the lake and habitat. There may be certain kind of frog in the lake or this, that, and the other thing. But they never really, they really weren't very concerned about it up until this year. Their main concern was for salmon. And everybody in the state realizes, you want to protect the salmon. But this year, the state, the Department of Fish and Wildlife also went into trout. So basically, every lake in the state has trout in it. And so a lot of those fish timing windows were pushed back to July 15th. And when you're looking at projects take 3 or 4 days, and it's scheduled, and all of a sudden the state says, no, all these other lakes now have to be done there. It's just, we couldn't even get to all the lakes we were supposed to do this year because of that. So we'll see what happens, next year, but I don't think it's gonna get any better.
Do we have trout in our lake?
Well, your lake is, I can't say it's different, because we have a lot of other private lakes that have no outlet. And they have a July 15th fish time window. And we've appealed a bunch of these and we've lost every time. And the reason we lose is because we don't have the data to support what we're trying to get them to do. What fisheries says we need a July 15th fish timing window. We say you don't need it. You go in front of these hearing boards or in front of the courts, they say, okay, Doug, give us your data.
So they want to know what kind of fish we have in our lake? So,
Yeah, but we don't know. I mean, we don't know. We don't have that data, so they rely on fisheries. They say fisheries is the state agencies that's mandated by the department, by the legislature to monitor all this stuff. They're the experts. We gotta listen to them.
So, those DNA testing that you can do for salmon, do they have, can you do that for trout as well? Cause I know that's a fairly inexpensive test.
The temperatures alone would support trout.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Right, but that's what I'm wondering is if you can do like a cheap DNA test and demonstrate that there isn't any trout
Well,
DNA in there.
Currently, the permit, permit, those rules don't apply to us, we're as an as-needed treatment, so
Yeah,
for now, we're fine. The
yeah,
permit-
you're fine.
The changes
It's just
don't
you're
doesn't
busy.
apply to us.
when you're
Yeah.
busy,
I mean, if the state were to come in, then you're a private lake. If the state were to come in and plant trout in here, then you'd be in trouble. Then you have July 15th date. I mean, you as a private organization can go and put trout in there, but they're not gonna hold over when you got water temperature 70 degrees.
and heron.
Yeah,
They like trout.
so I think you're safe. A lot of these changes are not gonna impact Barnes Lake ever.
They just affect your ability, your service
Timing.
ability.
Exactly, yeah. Other than that, if there are any other questions, we don't see any changes for 2024. You know, early survey, figure out what we're gonna do, and then propose it to the.
So we were scheduled, Doug, for next year for the big fluoridone treatment.
It's not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen?
Nope.
Okay. So you think that's a 25 then need,
Yeah, I think,
potentially based on what your survey just forecasting out?
yeah, I think, there may not be a need for another fluoride treatment.
How come? Why, is that why you're saying because it's,
Because of the fact that the material that we've used in the past to control the bladderwort, dicot is very effective against bladderwort. And I don't see the need to. There's always gonna be bladderwort in the lake, because when the lake water drops, the islands expose the bladderwort isn't exposed to the chemical. So when the lake water comes back up, that bladderwort comes back into the lake again. So it's really necessary to put $25,000 worth of material in. You know, it's gonna come back every couple of years. Lake out in Lake Susan, which is adjacent to Mun Lake, has bladderwort in it. And it's been treated with dicot and it's gone. It takes 5 or 6 years for it to come back. But it's something we'll just have to see.
Was there another species of plant, I'm trying to remember, that the fluoridone was trying to address?
The bladderwort was also trying to address the Yersinia. But we've got that fairly much under control right now. We learned from the last fluoridone treatment is that we cannot just stop treating the Yersinia. When we see it, it has to be sprayed. And so that's the mode we're in right now. If we see Yersinia, we're gonna spray it.
And you're doing that right now with the triclopyr or the dicot?
We're doing it with triclopyr for a massive of those too. But if we find areas, where there's some Virginia that there's no access by the transportation department, some of those little posts, we're gonna let it go. For fish habitat, we don't wanna take it all out. So we're just really just targeting those areas that could be potentially problematic.
One of the things I wanted to talk about for next year was the private leak treatment and how to go about that. Make sure that you get the information of what people are wanting. And so I was thinking that that's something that happens probably in February,
Yes, early.
early January, probably
I think
January.
You can come do it on foot at our place.
What's that?
You can do it right now on foot at our place. Just walk out there and
Well, Kathy, I think that's something we can, we got to a place where we can almost automate that. And so February is a good delivery point. We could send a note along with, maybe if we can time it with all of the other stuff, then we could send that out with the regional or with the update, the informational update. We can do the outreach. But, really, I think that's automated to a place where we can send a notice, we can send the applications to everybody.
Yep.
The mapping information is all
Yes,
included.
but I think it's the timing thing, because the
Well,
only time
on
that,
Doug. Yeah.
right, so the only time you can talk to Doug is in January.
Mhm.
But, people's head isn't like around asking for a treatment that's gonna happen in July.
Yeah.
But talking to you about it in January. So that's why I was raising it now, because this is our last meeting,
Yeah,
So the best way
Oh,
to kind of have the communication. So I guess I'm not sure what you were saying.
So in February, we pick a date where we have our meeting. I don't know if it's February 8th on here, but we meet early February. We agree to the outreach package. We send the community, all the LMD people around the lake, copy of the application process, and they can apply. And
By
we
the
can,
end of February.
we could say, by the end of February, pick a
Okay,
date, March
okay.
15, and they'll get in those applications in, and then we would, communicate them all to Doug. Doug can then reach out to the various folks and make the arrangements that he needs to do. And I think that would be, kind of fairly automated. If they have folks around the lake have questions, they can give us a call and we can walk them through the application process, but.
Yeah, so it's just having the timing.
Right.
Because before we were way down and when you were just like.
Oh, yeah.
So we can make that, we can certainly make that a deliverable for ourselves, is to have that ready to go for committee review for that first meeting in February that we meet. If we pick a early February or late January date for that meeting for your review, if everybody gives a thumbs up, and then shortly after that meeting, we send it out. I don't know if we would have enough information to then also include, well, maybe we should, because, the budget and the treatment plan. So really, we're expecting Doug's report on the treatment summary for this year and recommendations for next year, next month, right? So we should have that outreach material ready to go for that meeting as well. So basically, if we do our jobs, then by that first meeting here, you'll have the whole outreach package, which would include that treatment piece ready to go by end of January.
So what you're saying there is that we would have the application form.
It will be delivered to everybody with the outreach packet.
That we would have approved that.
Yes, we've already approved it. The form already
Okay.
exists. The application
Okay.
already exists. And so it's just a matter of when do we send that out to people so that they get it and everybody gets a copy of it. So what I'm suggesting is that we have a hard copy newsletter that goes out to folks, as well as on Constant Contact. Hold on one second, Lilani, I'll get to your comments. We'll send something out to Constant Contact, as well as, probably hard copy. We'll check on the budget to see if we can, do, 100 copies of something like that to everybody. But that would be the intention. At least have an outreach packet for you all to approve at that first meeting, January, February. And then right after that, it would go out with some timeline that's appropriate for Doug to, to be able to review these and respond to folks and do treatments when it works for him.
Yeah, so there's always confusion as to what we can and cannot do with each property.
Right, and that's where the big lesson that I got was that it takes time and it's individual time.
Right.
Is your concern that
that it'll be at the point of the year where there isn't a problem visible? And that it'll only show up later?
No, I think the
Okay.
problem is that, it's mentally in January. You know, people just, it's kind of what you said, nobody's thinking about the treatment. And then all of a sudden, when people are thinking about treatment, Doug's just like a hen, she's running around.
Cause we can
So
only
it's
do, we can only,
really
I mean,
pulling that, all the discussions.
cause we have to
I
schedule
would-
these treatments in with our other treatments on. the
Right, right, but the conversation is.
Yeah.
I would offer as well, I mean, that's where the steering committee can really help us, like, we get the information out there, but you talk to your neighbors. Right, so saying, hey, you got our packet, it came out, whenever it came out, make sure you get that in, I mean, Dave, Patrick and I, we can't call everybody up and say, hey, did you get this, but, you as neighbors can actually do that. With folks in your lake, but we can get the information into people's hands. And then, I mean, the reality is, if we don't, let's say March 15 is the date, if we don't get it back by March 15th, okay, maybe March 31st, could
Yeah,
work for
sure.
Doug, but, there's going to be a point that it's like, all right, Doug can't accept any more of these because he can't make any more assessments, or he can't make any more, timing because of the constraints that he has for, all the other lakes that he does too, so.
Yeah, I think as long as you guys make the effort to get it to the people, they have to act on it.
Yeah, but it's the people who have lakefront.
Yeah.
Access. Okay. So cue this all up for January.
Yep, we'll approve the outreach packet, and then it'll go out to everybody, and then it'll be really up to the individual property owners to submit the application. And the steering committee to kind of help us, knock on the door and say, hey, did you get that? You want it? Get it in. Yeah, because like I said, there's gonna reach a point where you just, doesn't matter, like, well, I want to get in this year. Yeah, well, applications are due. We sent you the information, we get that every year with literally everything we do. There's always somebody that comes in and says, hey, I want to be in.
Of
We're like,
course.
well, can't.
Yeah, but like, Rusty was saying that, when we're all out there looking at it going, I want it treated now, well, you had to ask.
Yeah, and then, okay,
You
go
get
for
it
next
next
year. You get it
Yeah.
next year, so when you see it come through next year, you'll know. So, Alani, I'm not quite sure I understand, is Barnes Lake is called a lake and not a pond, is there specific criteria? Also, is Barnes Lake spring fed? Well, I guess what I could suggest is that, there is a, kind of a history document, a characterization document that we put together, and I'm happy to send you a link to that. It's on the Barnes Lake webpage. It kind of talks about the formation. I don't know if it describes why it's called a lake and not a pond. There are seasonal inputs, and there used to be a natural output, which now has been really kind of piped. If you look at historical aerials, you can see an actually outlet of where the current kind of outlet is, where we put the beaver devices, and the berm we talked about over by DOT and Lark Street. That was a natural outlet that went to the Deschutes River. It is a kettle lake, and kettle lakes don't necessarily have natural inputs, but it is intercepted with groundwater. So the groundwater table, is basically what keeps Barnes Lake wet year round, and then the rainfall actually fills it up to the levels that you like to see.
Okay,
That's why
so
we have
it
such
is
a-
groundwater and rainfall.
Correct.
Okay,
Rainfall.
Yep.
So isn't it like the new developments where they make a rain catchment area? I mean, we just basically have a natural.
It's Mother Nature's protection law.
But those areas are not intercepted by groundwater.
I see.
Right.
But this is.
So if you see a stormwater pond that holds water, that's engineered that way, and that becomes like a polishing pond for water quality, so it settles out pollutants. Sometimes there's a nutrient uptake with the plants you see planted in there, and then it'll polish it theoretically, and then it'll transfer over. It'll either evaporate out of that pond, or if you get enough water, it'll transfer over to an infiltration pond. And that's where it infiltrates back down. So
That's different.
those are engineered to retain water. They don't so here where you have groundwater intercepting it, so when the table gets really low, you're seeing groundwater.
You're still gonna have.
Which is why if you have septic, issues, that's that water getting into it from the ground. It's groundwater infiltrating the lake.
And what is groundwater? And not, I always thought I knew what it was, but now I'm thinking, I don't.
It's just water that kind of fills the interstitial spaces, the tiny pore spaces in the rock and in the soil and things like that. So it's infiltration, it's rain, or other water, snow, and it infiltrates down into the ground and it just is held in that pore space in the rocks and the.
Yeah, it doesn't
in the
come up.
soils.
It's just there.
Well, it does come up, especially when it's
Well,
south,
it
south
can
town
come
over
up.
here.
It's
Man,
really,
got more flooding.
surface water is on the surface, so
Mhm.
lakes, ponds, groundwater is just under the surface. That's literally the only difference.
So I think then, I have a lot of groundwater down by the lake, because I don't have to water
Yeah,
ever.
the closer you get
Yeah.
to surface water, generally, so if you look at like, I'll pull it up, but if you look at like a kind of a profile of groundwater and like a surface water, you'll see like a little the ground goes like this. You'll see groundwater kind of come in like this and then dive down and intercept that surface water. So surface water is just groundwater expressed on the surface, and so the closer you get to a water body, the closer you are to that groundwater surface. Like you go down to the golf course, and especially in the wintertime, I mean, you can scratch the ground and you got groundwater.
It's almost like the groundwater holds
really
up
wet.
the surface water.
Yeah.
Cause if the groundwater
Oh.
wasn't there, the surface water would just sink in.
I see.
Well, that's a good segue into lake levels,
Great segue.
which I think we know where they are, but officially,
You guys probably know
we'll make it
better.
official.
You guys know better than I, so, yeah,
We lost everything over here.
go back to.
Oh, there's Lonnie. Hi, Lonnie.
Oh, and she's talking.
It was on, go back to
With your
Edge,
hands.
it's on Edge,
Is that Edge? Okay.
yeah, it's one of those, there's a,
Yeah,
Probably
you
a
have this whole
tab.
thing here that I
Lonnie,
can't.
your mic's not on.
oh,
I can't. There we go. Wait a minute.
go.
Let me see if I can do this.
She talked to somebody else.
Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Somebody else.
All right. There we go.
So yeah, can you scroll down just a little bit? I got a note down at the bottom of this thing. Yeah. Last I was able to take data was August 2nd. That was the last time I was on the lake. After that I tried to actually go back last week and it's still too low. So,
So you can't actually physically get out there and the equipment's not picking it up?
It's come up a couple inches. From
Yeah,
its lowest
not much
point,
more than
so.
that,
but it's very, we're getting late in the year for it to be this low. It's
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really weird.
Yeah, it
So,
So with the data recorder that we have in there, that's the one you actually have to clip into?
no, we can, I basically have to be within like 5 feet of it.
Okay.
But it was advertised as 200 feet, but in reality, you gotta be sitting on top of it. So,
200, but it's not, but it was
Give or
close.
take 100.
Yeah.
It's close.
So, that's the problem. And as soon as, what's nice about it though is it's still recording data. So as soon as they can make it out there, we'll have the
We'll
whole
have
data
a full
set.
set.
Yep. So, so that's fine.
So we will get a yearly low.
Yeah, and it's probably gonna be, well, if you scroll down to the next graph, I just wanted to kind of remind folks, oh, that's the temperature.
Yeah.
Scroll down one more, actually.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Early.
So this is our early data, and we bottomed out at 152 because basically our gauge, we couldn't read past that, so.
Those are estimates too.
So yeah, those are estimates, so we've never really known how low the low lake is, and so hopefully with this new.
It's low.
It's low.
Yeah, and so you can see it right here. It's saying 152. This was last summer, right? Or last late fall. Looks like September, October timeframe right here. So yeah, we're probably gonna be in that same. It'll be really interesting to see
No,
how
it's lower than that.
it's even lower than that, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It is. 'Cause we were able to get out.
I've never
and-
seen it like this. I could almost
We were-
walk to the line.
Yeah, we were able to get out and sample last fall, September and October, I think both, so.
Wow, okay.
So and we're still high and dry.
Yeah, so when we bottomed out in that other graph, so we're about still 6 inches about ish, on this one here. Again, yeah, those were estimates of the lowest recorded water, and we're like, yeah, that's about as far as it's gonna go, so.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how far it really
Well,
goes.
it started, well, it has started to come back up. But, it was down.
What's the battery life on that?
I replaced it last year about this time, and it goes for about 2 years, so. I just replace it every year, so. So yeah, and same with the temperatures, you can go down to the next graph. Temperatures, I haven't really, been able to collect that data either, so. But but we did see some pretty high temperatures, for, all of the times we were out there, May, June, July, and early August. So, I think we touched 80 degrees. at one point, So, it was hot.
What?
Yeah.
80?
80, yeah, it was,
In the showers,
no, that was,
in the middle?
yeah, it was up in the
80
middle.
on the surface.
Oh, you mean like really going out?
Yeah, where we normally go. Well, no, this is from the hobo, so this is over by the condos. But yeah, I mean, when we were out sampling, though, I think we were taking data there at that point too. It was, surface water is pretty hot.
Yeah, we could bump it up another 15, 20 degrees, we could advertise it as a spa. 80 degrees, a natural spa.
Yeah. So yeah, next slide down, or next graph down is, yeah, that's just the historical data. I wanted to kind of just show this for reference on the water level, you know, compare that to the data that we're collecting now. It's, so that was all I wanted to show with that one. What else do we got here? I think I got a couple.
Every 5 years, we hit those low points.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
2020 was the last 5 year.
2015 was lower.
Yeah. And I think I want to say prior to that, it was 2007, I think, a year, or 2004, or something like that.
Yeah,
So they're getting tighter and tighter.
2015 was an El Nino, and we're headed back to the El Nino year this year.
Isn't that amazing?
Tom asked if we can mount the data collector on a drone and fly it out to the lake within 5 years.
That's a good one, actually.
So you wanna give that a shot? You got a license, right?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I tried to do.
Silence indicates suspense.
I tried to do an assessment of some of the data points that we had collected this year, so scroll down, I think I included that in this, I thought I included it in this bit. Okay. Well, it must not have made it on the agenda. So we have 3 data points for this season. And everything was trending better than last season. So dissolved oxygen was better than last season. Clarity was better than last season. And one more metric, and I forget what it was, but everything was trending in the right directions. We're still seeing phosphorus above state standards, but things are kind of holding steady, so it's not getting worse. Not really getting better, but everything. You know, being said, we're trending in the right direction with most of our metrics.
Well, and phosphorus is the limiting factor for the 303D list, right?
Yes.
So Barnes Lake, I think we talked about it in a previous meeting, is an impacted lake. It's an impaired water body due to phosphorus. So that might
Along
be.
with most other water bodies.
Right, Doug?
We were in very good
Phosphorus
company
is
as
a
I
problem
recall.
for everybody, right?
What's that?
Phosphorus is a problem for most lakes.
No, yeah, that's me. Yeah. Soluble
We're not
phosphorus.
unique.
So LMD chooses to do something about it. I don't know if there's a state requirement that we have to do something about it, but something to be aware of, and you know.
I'm just curious, can we go to the file, and see if that, see if that data is sitting there in the 20, go back one, go to the info. Water quality, let's check that out. There we go, this is what I was trying to show, so this is dissolved oxygen for 2023, so May, June, July, and up around, you know, anything above 6.5 is great. So, you know, for June, May and June, great. August, we were still, you know, hovering right around that for the upper levels, which is just fine. Of course, that bottom DO is on the bottom. It's always a dead zone down there. So, go ahead and scroll down a little bit. So this is the analysis I did from year over year. So you can see in 2022, on the upper left, the 2022 is the yellow line. This year was the blue line. So we're improved there.
I see.
1 meter down again. 2022 is the green line. Orange line is 2023, so we got an improvement there. And then down in the middle of the water column, I think 2 meters down, again, we see another improvement, so.
So why are we getting an improvement?
That's really
What is it
weird.
that's doing that?
It's an odd thing to see because usually warmer temperatures have a opposite correlation,
Should be the other way around.
so
Huh.
it's kind of interesting.
So Doug,
Somebody's sneaking oxygen.
Doug, do
into
you
our
know,
lake.
does this lake, is it deep enough to flip?
No.
What?
No.
Well, 10 feet is kind of. We have some lakes that are stratified at 10 feet. But it's a very, very weak stratification. So, I'm gonna say no. I mean, you guys have taken temperatures. Yeah, so what have you seen? It's pretty much, I mean, you're not seeing a 10, 12 degree difference.
On the bottom, it's quite a bit different, but that's, I mean, you're literally in the muck down there,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Go ahead and scroll down a little bit more. I think I got a little bit more going on.
We could probably do is. See where it's on here right now.
I got a couple more pages, I think, of some
Ah.
stuff. Okay, here we go. So
Oh,
yeah, there's
Oh, there's the years.
There's Seshi disc, year over year. The brown line, the short brown line is 2023. So we were trending. Clarity was trending the best it's been in the data we collected, which is great. The red line isn't necessarily state standard, but that's a state recommendation for a swimming area. So we're well above that.
So above that is good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So you can see 06, we were below that. And then
Yeah.
we started treatments and
Interesting.
whatnot. So we saw quite a bit of improvement there, but yeah, the limited data we had was trending in the right direction for water clarity for 2023. Better than any year we've had in a while. So I think I got one more graph to share down below. Oh, here's phosphorus. So we started collecting phosphorus in the middle of the water column last year, and only one data point. So previous years we've been doing 2 data points. So this is to keep the data consistent. I just put 2022 and 2023 data here, and it's, as you can see, it's fairly consistent. The brown line there is the state standard that we're trying to get to. There's no real spikes in the data or anything. It's just kind of hovering right there above 0.3, between 0.3 and 0.4, or 0.03 and 0.04.
So you guys don't do soluble reactive phosphorus. You just do total phosphorus.
Just total phosphorus.
Did you say in 21 we had one data point? So you just got 22, 23?
So previous to these 2 years, we were doing surface and bottom. And to reduce costs, last 2 years, we've just been doing one data point. So it's.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying, but we have 3. Okay,
Yeah.
3 tests, 3 times, yeah.
Yeah, this is a different one. So yeah, it's just to compare apples to apples. This is kind of how I did it for now. So
What do they get for a phosphorus test? $50?
it was I just saw the bill today, actually. $127 for nitrogen and phosphorus.
Because you really need to do a soluble reactive phosphorus. Total phosphorus is the phosphorus that's not available for plant growth and the phosphorus that is available for plant growth. Orthophosphorus or soluble reactive phosphorus is the phosphorus that's available for algae growth. That's the phosphorus you want to be monitoring.
Yeah, the state standard though is in total phosphorus, so that's what's the difficult part about it. So
Yeah, Doug's looking at it for water
Figured it out.
quality, and what it's gonna cause problems with.
right.
Exactly.
Is it variable between, locations where, total phos and soluble phos
On
are
this one, I
they're
think-
not equal, like, not linear, like you could say 20% is generally available, depending on the water body, other characteristics of the water body or anything
No,
like
it's
that.
all, every lake is different. every lake is different.
What changes it from one form to another?
Just the pH, those kind of parameters. And it's basically the organic, inorganic part. You look at total phosphorus, when they take a sample, or when you guys take a sample and bring it to the lab, they take that sample, and they stir it up, do this, that, and the other thing, and then they analyze it. When you do an orthophosphorus or soluble reactive phosphorus, what they do is they filter out all the organic matter that's in there. So you're not getting, if you have algae in the water, in the sample, it's not in there, it's not being counted as a phosphorus source. The only phosphorus source that's you're looking at is the stuff that's actually active in the water column.
So orthophos that's the test you'd recommend?
Yeah, ortho.
Okay, that,
So basically, it eliminates the nutrients that are just suspended in
Exactly.
the
It
water.
eliminates, if you got any type of organic matter. You got dirt floating in your sample, that's gonna come up as total phosphorus.
So can we look into how much it would cost to add that?
And you don't need.
What if you dissolve, so I used to do a lot of sampling, and for metals, sometimes you can get these sample ones that you can throw a vacuum on it and it runs it through a filter. Can you do that?
No, you can, but you still have to,
It's just a matter of just
Yeah.
paying for the other test.
yeah, it's just a matter of paying for the test. You don't have to, I don't know how many sample sites you guys have,
Just one.
just one, yes, one sample taken right in the middle of the water column is more than enough.
and they're not, are they linear too, like orthophos and total phos? So if you subtract out the results from the orthophos, then you can basically say that's your.
If you subtract out the orthophos,
Now they're talking a language that's way over my.
Well, so we could go backwards then and kind of glean data.
Total phos based on the amount of not necessarily.
You have to have both.
You'd have to have both. There needs to be some other variable that's where I was asking. So could we go the other way and say it's like maybe it's relative to pH? And so if pH was, it reduces phos, then you could say, okay, well, we know what the pH is or the temperature is, and it's backwards on calculations, but this is both tests.
Yeah, you do both and then you can
And
calculate
orthophos
how
is
much is suspended.
So they do,
Exactly.
when they test nitrogen, they do two tests and then add them together, but phosphorus, look at the results right here, the phosphorus, the only result I get is total phosphorus, so they don't do it in two stages like they do with nitrogen.
Okay, so yeah, we can totally look into that for test costs. I mean, it's not gonna be super significant, in terms of net of cost. If we're
Make
getting,
Doug happy.
you said nitrogen and phosphorus, $100 and something bucks, $120.
It was $107 and $22 for shipping.
Plus shipping and stuff like that.
so the cost is gonna be, it'll be $150 a sample.
Yeah, it's not gonna be insurmountable for the value that we would get out of it on the other end.
Yeah, 'cause that's really the number you want.
Because then you would use that number if we wanted to think about a treatment program for phosphorus. You need to know what that soluble is.
Exactly.
'Cause that's what you're gonna be treating to.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see what we can put together for it.
So when you guys were talking about the lake, is it like turning where the bottom comes up? So is that what happened when all those root masses came up and then Cliff came and put that on our backyard? It was that
When you
whole
talk about turnover, what you're talking about is the bottom cooler water mixing with the upper warmer water.
But doesn't it lift up? Was that what happened? That it lifted up all those?
So that's the gases.
That's
Yeah,
the
they were
gases.
building up as they were decomposing. It was creating, piling of gases, which then lift. So
Oh.
this is different. So stratification. So you have different layers of the lake based on oxygen, the temperature, and then that flips at a certain part of the year. I don't think Barnes Lake has ever experienced that. We haven't been able to see that with the data. But we had that limnologist that came out when we were doing the last IAVP update, and they were talking about stratification of the lake. That's different than the process that you're thinking about when the roots came up, because that was gas buildup, and it just basically like a balloon, filled up a balloon and lifted the balloon on the,
Because I think, isn't that what happened? And then we knew it was a very short time period if we wanted to get that stuff off the lake.
Because what happens
Or it
is.
was gonna go sink right back in.
Exactly, what happens is, when it's under the water, it's trapped. But as soon as that mat reaches the surface and hits the oxygen, then it'll start decomposing using oxygen instead of
Well, and
anaerobically.
growing
Yeah.
too.
So eventually, if those mats were to surface, you were just to leave them there for who knows how long, they would eventually sink back to the bottom.
So that's why we hurried up and got them off lake.
Yeah, I remember Doug was trying to like trying different things, because maybe that was another thing,
Yeah.
sink them and get them back down, right? So they're not just
Yeah, but
obstructing
we were
the
saying,
surface.
no, get it up.
So they were out there trying to cut them up, and could
Yeah.
that do enough to, sink them back down and add that sediments back down? Because we still didn't have management options at that time. We still have very limited management options for this stuff.
Well, we did that twice, 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
but it hasn't happened again.
Well, because most of the big lily pad roots are now, they're gone.
Yeah, the big ones.
We still have all of runners.
Oh, yeah, you're.
The whole, almost the whole lake bottom still
They look
comes
like
up.
creatures from the dark lagoon. Those
So, yeah,
roots.
they could be,
Yes,
Nasty.
Crocodile tails,
yeah.
alligator tails.
We can go back to, I'm done with the water quality stuff, unless anybody has any questions on it, we can go back to the meat packet. There we go. So,
And we did have, though, a topic we'd added to the agenda of the septic and sewer system issue, but I think we are tabling that until we can get some expert.
Yeah, we'll get some more information on what we found out there on Lark Street. We'll talk about that back in January, and other recommendations, because, depending on what the city found, that's the phosphorus levels that are in the lake. Phosphorus and sewage is interconnected, it could be septic systems if we're seeing these high levels, it could be fertilizer. So, really, I think what you all as a committee need to decide is how far down this road do you want to go? There are certainly things that we could recommend, as far as, we've talked about, around this table before, a number of times, like, having folks from the county health department come over, talk about septic system maintenance, talk about streamside living, talk about testing, for that, for leaking septic tanks, what programs exist to help folks get repairs or replacements as needed. Sewer does exist around the entirety of the lake, so in many cases, if a leaking septic system is found, we require you to connect up. So those processes are in place. We have an early, conversion program. So if somebody was interested, or they thought their tanks might be leaking or whatever, they can call up the city and they can get an application and reduce the costs in half for a septic conversion. That incentive is only gonna be around for so long. Until it's just kind of like, you had your opportunities, in an urban area to get connected. So we'll bring all of that stuff, kind of give you all some things to think about, in January.
I think because I wasn't at the last meeting, I don't know the background on exactly what we're talking about.
So
Here, this
in the last meeting, we were just talking about the phosphorus and how much phosphorus is in the lake. And so we were talking about the potential sources of where that phosphorus could be coming from.
Okay, and so what's this, yeah, oh, okay,
some
so
people
this
are
is not
sure.
related to your,
Well,
I don't
It could be, it could be adjacent to it.
that could be
A
one of the
contributor.
contributors or.
It could be.
I see, I mean,
Yeah.
it could be just from,
Groundwater flows are generally to the east, in this area, because the Deschutes River is the low point. So everything, think about groundwater, is moving towards the Deschutes,
okay,
right? And so if there is a leak in a sewer line that's east of the lake, it's unlikely that that is contributing,
I
but what's the integrity of the sewer lines looking like around the lake,
Okay.
right? So, or is there a direct conduit? So I know there are neighbors around the lake that have stormwater lines. And so is some of this getting into a stormwater line through what we call I&I, infiltration and oh God, I forget the first
that's
I.
all right.
But anyway, too many acronyms that we've got. But basically, is there sewage getting into a pipe that's then discharging into the lake? So
Yeah.
those are things that, the city can take a look at.
Okay, and how did this come up?
because of the
I
hospital.
see.
It
Oh,
started with phosphorus.
because of the phosphorus level,
Yeah,
Right.
and
wondering why.
And
Ah,
the
yes.
expectation
Okay.
that.
What we can do.
Sorry.
Part of this LMD was formed because of water, responding to water quality issues. There's water quality issues that have been identified by the state and it's been confirmed by the water quality monitor. What you're doing out there, so.
So is
something
it
to consider.
identifiable, like which properties are still on their own.
100%. Yeah, we can tell you which properties have septic. What I couldn't tell you, well, maybe the county
They're
might have.
functioning well.
Yeah, and what the county might have, because I think septic owners are required to do it every 3 years, have it tested, you know?
Oh, if you're in an old, that's what we talked about the last meeting.
No.
It was highly contested at the county level to do a required O and M, which is operating and maintenance, and they only did it in shellfish districts.
Right.
I see.
Yeah. So
Well, I
I've been
can't
committee
believe
for 2.5 years.
I
so
didn't
to do
know.
nothing. I was like,
Right.
that's almost like maybe.
There's
Because
more
I
than a
thought,
couple?
didn't it show up in, like, one of the aerial drone or flyovers that you
Well,
can see?
Sometimes you can find it. If you see a lot of filamentous algae growing along the shoreline,
Or, like.
yeah,
But you can just, the county has information
If
on
you
their
s-
website, anybody can look and
Yeah.
see who's on septic and who's not.
Yeah.
And there have, if they've had a test recently, you can find those kinds of reports online as well. So some of that information is public, but part of it is just homeowner education. When was the last time you had your tank inspected? There's some tanks that if there's no requirement to inspect your tanks, why would I look at my tank if nothing ever backs up? Well, how do you know if it never backs up? If you don't know if it's failing down the coast, right? If it's failing down to the lake, you're not gonna know, and in more cases you're not going to see a colored discharge from your shoreline into the lake. You're not even gonna see that. The only way you do tell it, you do dye testing. And then, you drop the dye in your tank, you give it a day, or maybe sometimes just a few hours, then you go out and you look at the lake through a special lens, and you can see the dye, in the lake. And then
If your garden's growing really nice.
Yeah.
Or if
Yeah.
your garden's doing
Whoa,
amazing.
But you got a lot of geese out there too, right? So, goose poop, makes.
No, I don't want.
So anyway, we'll bring some stuff for you to chew on in the January meeting.
You
February
think
meeting.
goose poop is good fertilizer?
Oh, yeah, sure. Mix it on in there.
Off the top of the goose poop and on to the 2023 work.
All right. So let's see here. We covered some of that tonight. We got the work plan up here. July and August, we wrapped up those. We couldn't get the last round of water quality because water level's too low. Moved into September. Doug just he mentioned about the aerial assessment, so we won't expect that for this year. There was a question about delivering end of season outreach materials for the stakeholders, and that was something I remember we had talked about in previous years when we were doing the fee update, and that was to provide regular information. Right? I don't know if we have enough information end of season to communicate out. So I think that our timing around February, March is good because that's after we've had the treatment report, we've got budgets adopted for the current year. So Dave was asking me about this recently, and I thought really it was also about water quality information that has been collected, but I still think probably maybe once a year is a good enough outreach timing with.
I agree.
Well,
Because
get the outreach
for
timing.
us, we're here at each meeting.
Right.
And you can see, I hardly know what's going on. But for people, if it's once a year, I just wanna know, how's the lake?
Right.
How's the lake doing? It's doing good in this, it was better last year, and
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Well, and if people want to participate with the private.
Oh, yeah, about that.
Yeah, you should send that,
All together.
application with that information.
Yeah,
So
that
as
is-
they're thinking about, their lake, there's the opportunity to, get Doug on contract. Or
There's just a handful of people that are
yeah, there's not
lakefront.
a lot.
Well, I mean, a big chunk of that too is making sure that, and we can talk with Tom about this, what he thinks is the best approach. Is it sending, an application to all of the residents, or is it just maybe the condo association?
I see.
Managers, we send it to them, and then, but the entirety of the condo complex would get the LMD update, but just not the application, because we would do that to the point of Doug. I mean, we're trying to point to you, Tom. Tom would get that, review that with the condo association managers. Yeah, do you have thoughts on that, Tom? Preferences?
Well, I think distributing the update information to all of the owners is a good thing. it might be useful, I don't know, to put a little application on there for for them to fill out if they're interested in potentially being on the board. I've got our next newsletter is going to include a little blurb about the empty spots on the board. So we're advertising it in our internal newsletter over at the condos, but I think it wouldn't hurt to have something just right on the annual information update that goes out, the mailer that goes out. And yes, I definitely think that every condo owner should receive one of those information packages each year. I think they already do. I get mine at the condo too. So yeah, I think it's worth giving it a try.
What about the application for shoreline treatment? So the stuff that Doug does privately for the L&D property owners. I don't know if we would envision a scenario because the condo owners can't necessarily obligate Doug to treatment, so would that probably be better suited just sending it to the condo board?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that we need to send the private treatment applications to every condo owner. No, I can just carry that to the board.
Okay.
So basically, this number 2 under September would go moving up to January.
Right, and it's already, we've got that on the next one for next year, so you'll see that show up in there. It doesn't sound like we're gonna get a final water quality monitoring, or were you able to get additional tests done? No?
No.
Is it too late?
Yeah, it's pretty much too late. There's no productivity in the winter months really,
I
so.
still can't. Couldn't even get out.
Yeah, generally, I think October is the cutoff month for that.
We're gonna get them a paddle. Next
Full
year.
paddle board, by the way?
Wetsuit.
And so as you saw, Dave, has got an update of the water quality data, so he'll continue to collect that. We'll continue to refine the presentation and add future dates to that, so it becomes a nice little summary for folks over time. Permit compliance needs requirements for 2024. I don't believe there's too many changes that affect Burns Lake coming up. No, Doug says no. Okay. And then you'll see we've got the budgetary needs for 24 identified. We did the walkabout last month, which by all accounts was a success and fun. Y'all got to meet Patrick, so he'll join us for our next walkabout next year. We get to see everybody's perspectives of the lake.
Good lake.
And so
I've only seen her perspective.
we get a few more. This meeting, we're going to cover the 24 work plan and the 24 budget, so we can check those off for this month. Hopefully you brought your calendars, so we'll be able to finalize the schedule for next month, which we will do next. And last month, you actually did the, did you reaffirm the recorder?
Yes,
You did reaffirm the recorder last month?
it
as
was
well?
in the minutes.
Oh, okay, good. So
We
that's
made sure that.
So that's done. All right, any question on work plan to date? Leilani, we're gonna do the meeting dates next year, and they will be included in the minutes that come out after the meeting, so you'll have them. She might have already left, so. Okay, yep, she's not, okay. All right, any questions on the 23 work plan? No, go ahead, just roll us down to the next one, 24. Actually, we'll stay on the budget. Well, we don't have a 23 budget in here, do we? Well, anyway, the budget hasn't changed since the last time you saw, because have not yet received any bills from Doug's, which hopefully we'll get shortly for the treatment work, and then next month for the report coming out, and then wrap those up by the end of the year. We predicated a 2024 budget based off of the expectation of doing Floridone treatments, and so it sounds like we might have over budgeted for next year. Either way, we'll have sufficient funding to do what y'all need to do for next year, because the budget remains the same for the admin side of things, miscellaneous admin, having some additional funds there for printing and supplies, and city of Tumwater billing costs, so to speak.
Question.
Yep.
Yeah, just, Doug, why is it we're not doing the Floridone next year?
I don't
It's
think
just
you're
not
gonna-
needed,
I
or?
don't think you're gonna need it.
Okay, good, I'm good with that. So that's how many years now? For
Well,
me, that'll make 4.
2020 was the last time it was.
2020, but you'll also understand is that we used the dicot tree one year instead of a Floridone. So technically, if we wanted to, we could say that dicot treatment could have been a Floridone treatment.
I see.
But we didn't use Floridone, we used the dicot.
Is the dicot the $25,000 treatment?
No,
Because there was one year we did that expensive treatment.
Yep.
And you're saying that we probably could have done dicot that year. Is that what I'm hearing?
we could have, but Floridone was a material that was to begin what we're trying to find out, what works, what didn't work, and the longevity of it was, Floridone was the best shot the first time.
Now, when you say dicot dibromide,
Correct.
So you said if Yersinia seen that it needs to be treated ASAP, and what is that treated with?
Yersinia is treated with either triclopyr or imazapyr. It's one of those two.
So how would we know it when we saw it?
Generally, it's put on the notice we put on your door, tells you what material we're gonna use that day.
That you know that it's there?
Yeah.
So as you know, the city operates on a 2-year biennium budget. So this budget has already been adopted by the city. And so basically just also reflecting the numbers that were adopted by the city in that budget. We're going to be re-engaging the budget process again next year. So, you know, as we consider the budget for 25 or 24 and 25, I'll be kind of looking forward. I'll be looking to do this in 24. I'll be looking forward to 24 or 25 and 26. And bring that forward for y'all's consideration as well. And as you know, we've kind of forecasted out the budget through the perceived termination of the LMD in 2035, I think it is. So we have some basic numbers to be able to help guide that conversation. So I'll be bringing that more to you next year. But any questions on the proposed budget for next year? Is there anything in particular that the LMD might want to consider next year that, you know, we I think we have sufficient funding, and, you know, maybe with some of the water quality bits, you know, if we have to add some, we might need to look at that $500 figure there.
$500 figure?
There's $500 in water quality monitoring, so we might have to add some money there, but there's certainly room to move with miscellaneous operating and miscellaneous admin. There's some, what I like to call management reserve. You know, and plus if we are not doing Floridone treatment, you know, there's probably some flexibility, you know, for funds that are under contract services currently. So if there was additional things like, you know, they only wanted to accomplish, we could consider that.
Like removing mats and islands?
See, as you was at a $5,000 a day job, so that adds up pretty quick.
But once the stuff is out of there, it's,
Something for the LMD to consider if that's somebody wants to propose something.
yeah, I mean, I know that it's complicated because first you have to have the right kind of island, and then you have to have the right kind of place to put it.
The property owner to take it, and a
even-
contractor that can get there with equipment.
Right, yeah, it's,
All the
And then the
complications.
lake levels need to cooperate.
yeah. I was looking through all the old pictures when I was doing Gary's fire stuff. And just aware of just how much stuff we took out of the lake.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It was a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because we did it twice at our house and then,
Gary, we put a bunch of Garys
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary's, that old lower.
McCaffrey's.
Because I know it was expensive.
Any questions on the budget for next year? Okay. Move on down to the 24 work plan. We'll do the scheduling here on the work plan. So, wash, rinse, repeat. Very similar work plans you see this year. Starting January, February, do the 23 treatment summary report. We'll review that with the committee. Doug will provide that in December. So, staff will review that, and then we'll bring that to the January meeting, February meeting for your review. We'll send you a copy once we've gotten it and make sure that we understand everything in there, and then we'll send a copy out to the LMD for that conversation or the committee.
Question on these.
Yep.
Are those the dates that you're suggesting for the meetings, or is that need to be updated? Because those dates don't look right to me.
It's Thursday.
Yep, nope, they're not. These are just dates from this year.
Oh.
So if we wanted to keep with a similar process, so you're talking first week of February, third week or fourth week of March, so similar timeline this year. So that's why they're highlighted. They will change based on, there'll be the Wednesdays, in the months, in the weeks and months as kind of proposed there.
Do you want us to votes, or do you want us to just wait and see what you propose, and then we'll just make a decision at the next meeting?
The next meeting will be that first meeting, and so we're going to do that tonight. We're going to pick those meeting dates tonight.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. Do you want me to go through the work plan, or do you want to go through the dates first? Okay. So, thank you, Patrick. Keeping with this, the first meeting would be
February 7th.
February 7th.
Well, the
I'm
second
gone.
the second week of February is the 14th. The 7th is the first week. Don't we normally plan our meetings the second Wednesday of the month?
Well, we're doing scattered months now, so we're trying to just pick what makes the most sense without having too many meetings that are too close together to make sure there's sufficient business. I'd highly recommend not doing February 14th as a meeting date. But if you'd like, we can.
I love you all, but apparently it doesn't feel the same.
So I'm
Okay.
gone. I definitely want to be at this first meeting. And
Well,
I
you'll be
leave,
gone on that day.
You can always pick January 31st too. So I mean, if you wanted to, because it was just intended to be the end of January, early February, that first meeting, to give us time to get through into the new year, to put the packages of stuff together, because early meeting in January it's really hard on staff to get things together with everything else that we've got going. So end of February or end of January, early February. So that's January 31st or February 7th.
I think I would like the 31st, because I'm really invested in this whole private treatment and making that communication work well.
For everyone else?
Yes.
Such an agreeable group.
Yeah, if somebody wants to work, everybody's like, yay.
The next one, end of March, 1st of April, so it's either March 27th or April 3rd.
I cannot do March 27th.
You can even go April 10 if you wanted to push it out a little bit. Because the next meeting is not proposed until mid-June. Be in April 10,
What'd you say about April 3rd? Is that okay?
April 3rd or April 10th?
You,
Okay. Next one's mid-June. So we're talking June 12 or June 19.
I'm tied up on the 19th. I'd vote for the 12th.
19th is a holiday as well.
Oh, you're right. You're right. So June 12th.
Is that pretty?
What's the holiday?
Juneteenth.
Oh, that's right.
All that goes.
June 12th? We have a winner. All right.
Are you a bingo caller in another life?
Maybe, who knows? All right, mid-October, that's the 9th or the 16th.
Are we on July, August?
We usually skip that,
There's no meeting.
because it's really middle of treatment season, there's not a whole lot to review.
Okay.
I've got a meeting on the 16th, so I'd vote for the 9th of October.
When did we do the walkabout?
Yeah, well, the walkabout will be in there somewhere.
Well, September 13th, I want to say.
Oh, you
Okay.
did?
Of this year was September 13th, so I would be, I haven't gotten back there. Okay.
911.
So, I just got lost.
Yeah.
The meeting for the mid-October is proposed at October 9.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
But then we'll backtrack
So
to,
now we'll go back to the September, mid-September for the walkabout. Generally sufficient time for treatments to have been effective, water levels are down. Generally decent weather, light starting to turn. September 11 or September 18?
11th works for me. I got a meeting on the 18th.
I like that.
the 11th it is.
And then the
No,
last,
I'm slow. September what?
11th.
11th, okay, 911.
okay, and the
That's
last
the
one
walk around.
is early part of November, so 6 or 13.
What's the election day gonna be?
The 5th.
The 8th?
The 5th.
The 5th is gonna be election day.
Right. Yeah. I'd say the 13th works easily. That's the second Wednesday of the month.
September or November 13. Okay, we're hearing no complaints about the 13th. There it is. There's your schedule.
That was November 13th. Correct.
And okay,
And are you just saying you're done with the meeting or done with your part of the meeting?
I'm going back
Just
to
the
review the work plan now.
Oh, okay.
All right,
I
where
thought
do
we were
we?
done.
Okay, so moving, finishing up January,
Oh,
February. We'll talk about the private lake treatments, we'll prepare and review member outreach materials. So this is again at January, February meetings. We'll have that packet together for you. I believe we have a new contract for Northwest Aquatic Ecosystems that will need to be prepared. So we'll have that in January for folks review. And SOP for volunteer monitoring program. So that's really just for Dave to kind of like take a look at, all right, does this statement of practices or whatever else we call standard operating procedure for the volunteer monitoring programs is still valid? Do we need to make any updates? That's really more of an internal thing for us to review annually. And then also get information out to the folks in the community about that, who wants to participate, who wants to go, paddleboard out with Dave, to collect samples. Okay, for the March, April meeting, which will be April 3rd. Well, actually, hopefully by then, all of the materials will have gotten out to the LMD members. That includes information on the 24 work plan, the budget schedule, the 23 summary report, and a good suggestion, Tom, board vacancies that are proposed for that year. So we can see if there's anybody that are interested in taking up some of the open spots today. We could also talk about what that constituency looks like in January, February. So let me add that there so that way the committee has full awareness. Okay. We'll begin the acquisition of supplies for water quality monitoring program, really just kind of an internal checkpoint for us, make sure we've got what we need to kick off the summer water quality monitoring program. Things like that. If there are any changes to the role of rates and charges, which there are now annually, and I believe they're just generally programmed in for the finance department, but we'll confirm that with them again, an internal checkpoint. May, June meeting, that's now June 12th. Conduct chemical treatments. So as Doug's getting into his work, If there are any floating mats that, folks are interested in having moved to their property, we'll make sure Doug's aware of that, so we can pop them over there and anchor them to the shorelines for folks. Hopefully, the servers and everybody will be back up and we can get the aerial assessments done and the other, spring assessments. So there's this review committee appointments, announce vacancies as needed, number 4, I'm gonna move up to January. So that way we can announce that with the outreach package. And then do a couple rounds of water quality monitoring. Take a couple months off, from a meeting anyway, but Doug will still be doing his work and Dave will still be out on the lake doing the water quality work. And, that will be that. We'll reconvene, on September 11th for the walkabout. And come back and sit around the table October 9th, talk about the assessments. If Doug has an opportunity to do a follow aerial assessment in the fall, have a second video out there done at that point, post-season. We think we've decided tonight that the end of season outreach materials, sending that out is probably once a year is probably a good enough touch if we can get that done. So let's see here, cross that one off. Conduct September last few rounds of water quality monitoring, updating of those summaries, and again reviewing budgetary needs, work plan development, and compliance needs. And then final meeting of the year, November 13th, just as we're doing tonight, reviewing the finalizing the work plan and budget for the year and the meeting schedule, and conducting the election of officers for 2025.
And I just saw what I was looking at. It's at the top. Officers.
That's a 23 work plan.
I know, but that's, remember I said I couldn't remember where I saw
The
it.
24 work
That's what it
plan
is.
has been updated.
That's what it is.
The
Yeah.
24 work plan has been updated. So that's that. Any questions or additions, changes to the 24 work plan?
It's like the same amount of,
Wash, rinse, repeat.
yeah.
Same thing, what?
Oh, just doing what we're always doing.
Yeah. What's the maintenance thing?
Well, I mean, you're gonna get into some interesting issues with phosphorus conversation, so, there might be some updates to this.
But Kathy, and, I mean, I don't know if I'm reading you wrong, but it's amazing how much we are getting done now, just as a matter of course.
Right.
But not having to invent the wheel, like getting the private treatment done, now, it's wired now,
Right.
so we can spread it to other people more easily than we did that the first time, trying to figure out how to do it. Where's my property? Yeah, so
That was
it's,
fun. Yeah, it is, it's nice.
Well, any future agenda items that we can discuss?
I still want to talk about the Gary the Deutsche Award.
Oh, yep, that's
right.
That's on here. That's the last thing we can talk about.
Okay. So now? So I have the picture, I have a picture of, it's a beautiful award. Can I, if I email you or text you the photo, can you show it now?
Maybe. Go for it, let's see.
You're young, Dave, you're supposed to know how to do these things.
Yeah, if you email the Dave,
Yeah, email will be easy.
Yeah. And we can just read all of Dave's other email.
Right.
So email it to you?
Yeah, go for it.
So while she's doing that one, I have, discussed this with our city council, or not our city council, with our mayor, and city administrator Parks, who you just met. And we've discussed that once, we can get a copy of that, as well as the, have the plaque in hand. I would make a presentation to the city council about, kind of maybe we time it when we go with the budget and the assessment update, for council's adoption, do a special item that day for Gary and the award that he received and the work that you all do, but, and really I'm trying to honor Gary and the work that he's done as well. I think that's You know, a nice way to honor them, the words that y'all helped kind of share and Kathy put together, and then, you know, maybe there's a slideshow. I think you said he had a slideshow. You did put together pictures.
Yeah, they put it like kind of a board thing, and I just had pictures that I was
Gotcha.
kind of sending them to her, and is this what you want?
So, you know, we'll plan on
So
doing
it should
something
be
like that in January.
It hasn't come in yet.
Oh, because I scrolled.
It's like Dave has to clean out his mailbox.
It's an ongoing battle for me. And I'm afraid, but I talked to Lance today, it's like, yeah, they don't actually get deleted. I'm like, oh, okay, so I'll just delete everything.
Yeah, there's a whole archive that you can find everything that's coming.
You showed me today, so.
Generally, how I do mine is I'll go back 6 months and delete everything that's older than 6 months.
Yeah, what I did today, I've got some photos on there that I've been trying to get saved too, so that's probably what's eating up a lot of my space.
Uh-oh, it said there was a failure. So is it Gmail?
Oh, you sent my Gmail?
Oh, did I send it to the wrong one?
So it's my Tumwater. I can't access my Gmail through here. I
Okay.
can, but I'm not supposed to.
Okay. Let me see. Yeah, I didn't have. Oh, here it is. Here you are. I found you.
So yeah, we'll get that scheduled for probably the either one of the January, February board meetings or council meetings, and I'll let y'all know when that gets scheduled. So if anybody wanted to be there as well, can testify, speak. Testify is a formal word. And I'm sorry to miss last meeting. You know, it sounded like y'all had a really good conversation, you know, around the award and Gary too. So fantastic.
It's weird, isn't it? Somebody's just gone. He's still sitting there, you know.
There it is.
Did it come in? Oh, good.
There's no attachment.
Well, then now I can't find it.
Send button.
Yeah, that was probably good because, you know, I don't think Dave's mailbox can handle it.
That's true. Hurry to delete some.
Let me make space for you, Dave.
Delete it. Look, I got plenty of room.
You can at least delete the message
Yeah.
when they're telling you that.
That's 6 gigs. Yeah, Dave. They're pretty good size there.
Bonnie's. I saw everybody's today on this computer because this computer wouldn't load me because it was too big. And so Lance had to help me out. Because this computer is loaded with everybody's that's used this computer has all their stuff loaded on it.
Oh
So
my gosh.
Bonnie's was by far in a way the largest. So
You know, we in Water Resources, I don't know what it is, but the work that we do, we get more emails and bigger files and more attachments because we're working with, you know, all sorts of different stuff, photos and consultants and send big plan sets. And,
Oh,
you know, they said at one point, there was just me and the mayor had the biggest email inboxes
Oh, there we
in
go.
the entire city. And all they just kept doing was bumping our numbers up so we wouldn't lose our stuff.
It's really nice. On a nice wood plaque.
Oh, really?
And they sent a letter. It was a really nice.
It's already done?
You just keep
Yeah,
stuff-
yeah.
So it's already done,
Yeah,
so we're not approving it.
Yes.
Oh,
I opened it and showed it to Jim and then put it on the kitchen counter
Oh,
and went
oh.
out the door.
uh-huh, I see
So
how
they
it
mailed
is.
it to me.
Uh-huh. No, no, that's.
Nice.
Pictures of
Now, how is this being, are you gonna take it to
Well,
their
that's what
house?
Dan was, I'll bring it.
But go to his, to his wife, right?
No, she said, cause they asked her, did she wanna get it? She said that, she just said no, she didn't know what. Yeah, she was just like trying to process a whole lot of different things.
Yes, I guess.
So, the communication turned to me and I said, just send it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll present this to city council, you know.
With the
we'll-
letter that.
With the letter that came with it, and you know, maybe there's some other stuff we can put together, pictures, you know, of Gary out in the lake, if anybody's got pictures of Gary specifically, you know, doing some stuff. I'll highlight that when, this other stuff goes to council. for them as well. And then, we'll try and keep this award on, at least at the city here for a while,
I see.
and then, we'll figure out, should this go to, Gary's wife or, family.
And he's
or-
got there's
Yeah.
lots
Yeah.
of Lloyd's family.
Yeah, his daughter, I believe, lives at the condos, so.
Oh, really?
No, she's,
Oh, she has moved from there?
I mean, not real far, but they still have the condo.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I don't know if they're renting it or what, but yeah.
So we'll figure out, after we get through all that.
Yeah, because I think we were really wanting to have Tim and their family to have a formal presentation.
thank you for doing
Yeah,
Thank you for
thanks for all the
pushing
people
me.
who made comments. This was really nice. And Linnea, she really, that was nice. It was still too fresh. I was like, I'm not reading this thing.
I love the idea of doing a presentation for the council. It's a good way to kind of personalize the whole LMD, I think, to the leadership. No,
Well, future agenda items, I think we left that hanging there.
I guess so, yeah.
Hold on. Anything else, I guess?
Everyone have a good night.
And I miss her and your doggy
Oh,
barking across the lake.
yeah.
I miss it. He had the deep
Sorry,
bark.
I
We
missed-
got yappy dogs around, but he's a
So I
deep
have
bark.
a question. I do the Facebook page for the lake and somebody named Dave Anderson, wanted to be a part of the. So I was just curious if anybody knows of a Dave Anderson. They're-
Is Tom here? Tom, are you there?
Yep, still here. Yep,
You
I'm
know
still here.
somebody, David, Anderson, like at the condos that might be wanting to join the Facebook page for the lake?
I'm not aware of anybody asking about that, but I can re-advertise that along with our solicitation for board members.
Okay,
No, she just heard about
Yeah, somebody-
somebody named Dave Anderson, and we don't know who that is, so.
and I
On
get
the water
sometimes
lake
random requests.
Facebook page.
Yeah, okay.
Another common name.
Thanks. See you next.
Yeah, I know you have to.
If you do say so.
All right, well, y'all have some good holidays. And
All right.
we'll see you next time. All right.
We don't need that reminder.
Don't need that kind of stress.
You did good, Linnea.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Yeah, good night, Linnea.
Do you want any of this?